Welcome to another Gearwig Battle Report. A 50-point game between Josh's Cryx and Nick's Menoth at the Complex in Scarborough, Maine. Josh brought pSkarre today, the Pirate Queen. She has a Scarlock Thrall. She took the Kraken Colossal. Has a Machine Wraith, a Necrotech and Scrap Thrall. Tartarus with a full unit of Bane Knights. Then a mini unit of Bane Thralls with the UA. A full unit of Mechana Thralls with a couple Brute Thralls, and 2 units of Necrosurgeons with their Stitch Thralls. And Nick bought the Harbinger of Menoth's Tier 4 list. She brought a Hierophant attachment. She has Vilmon the Paladin and 2 other Paladins with her. Her battle group consists of the Avatar of Menoth, 4 Crusaders and a Devout, a full unit of Choir, and a full unit of Temple Flame Guard with the UA. Josh deploys like this. He has his full unit of Bane Knights along the bottom. The Colossal is positioned centrally with a Scar behind it. The Bane Thralls and the Mechana Thralls are along the top. Nick has his Temple Flame Guard along the bottom. He placed 2 of his tier bonus walls right in front of his models, and a third further up. Most of his battle group is in the center. The Avatar and a Crusader are along the top with the Paladins. And the game was played on the Outflank scenario with 2 neutral circular zones. Josh starts his turn by allocating 1 focus to the Kraken. It then activates and runs. The Machine Wraith runs next. Followed by the Bane Knights. They are ghostly, so they don't lose movement running through this forest. And they end up like this. One of the Necrosurgeons and her Stitch Thralls runs up. Josh will mostly be using these guys as sacrifice targets, although the Surgeon can heal Scar when she needs it. The Scarlock advances. He can cast one of Scar's spells. He casts Ritual Sacrifice, removing one of the Stitch Thralls. She'll gain a d6 extra focus next turn, so 6 extra focus. This allows her to camp all her focus and run, bringing her right up to the Colossal. The Scrap Thrall runs, as does the Necrotech. The Bane Thralls run next, and end up like this. The Mechana Thralls run as well, and the Necrosurgeon follows right behind. And Tartarus goes last, and that ends Josh's first turn. Nick's Avatar generates 2 focus to start. And then the Harbinger allocates 1 to each of her jacks. Vilmon runs up behind an obstruction. One of the normal paladins advances and sacrifices his action to use Impervious Wall. And the second paladin does the same. The Avatar spends a focus to run. Followed by a Crusader. The second Crusader also runs, as does the Devout. And the remaining Crusaders. The choir move up and sing Passage, making the jacks immune to non-magical ranged attacks. The Devout ends up being just out of range, so he is still a possible target. The Harbinger camps her fury and advances forward. The Hierophant runs beside her. He'll be able to heal her later when she uses her life to save her infantry. And the Flame Guard run. They don't bother using Shield Wall here, and they try to avoid the forest because they don't have Pathfinder. They end up being clumped up like this. And that ends Nick's first turn. Josh allocates 3 to the Kraken, and then Scar keeps the rest for herself. The Kraken activates, takes the aiming bonus, and fires a shot into the Flame Guard. It boosts, needing a 6 to hit. And hits. The guard directly hit is vaporized, and the other 5 will take dice minus 6 damage. The first is boosted and does damage. Nick uses Martyrdom to save him. Another boost, damages. Nick again uses Martyrdom. 3 more unboosted damage rolls. Do nothing. Nothing again. And nothing for a third time. The Flayer gets a D3 plus 1 shot, so 2 shots. And it fires at the Temple Guard in the front row. It'll again need 6s to hit. The first attack misses. The second hits, it auto-destroys the guard. The Machine Wraith runs directly toward the Harbinger's battle group. If he can make it to one of her jacks, he could take control of it. The Bay Knights are still out of range, so they just run, hoping to set up a next turn charge. And they end up like this. The Scrap Thrall runs forward, looking to blow up next turn. The Mechanothralls are out of range as well, so they just run. They look to contest the zone as much as possible. They end up like this, with the Surgeon and Stitch Thralls behind them. The Bane Thralls advance, and end up like this. Tartarus runs here. Scar camps her focus and runs. Both of these armies are pretty slow, but with devastating feats, so we're spending 2 turns here positioning ourselves for the big showdown. The Surgeon and her Stitch Thralls move closer to Scar. The Scarlock sacrifices another Stitch Thrall. And Scar will get 4 extra focus next turn. And that ends Josh's second turn. The Avatar generates a D3 plus 1 focus, so 2 focus. And the Harbinger allocates focus out to 3 of her Crusaders in the front here. A Crusader activates and runs. It ends up behind another wall. Nick isn't crazy about putting these guys behind walls. They don't have Pathfinder, so they can't charge from there. But he doesn't have a whole lot of room. Another Crusader runs. As does the third. The Devout advances up to swing on the Scrap Thrall. It needs a 5 to hit. The attack hits. This damage roll will destroy it. The Thrall will blow up, roll dice minus 10, and not scratch the jack. The last Crusader just advances. The Avatar of Menoth uses Gaze of Menoth, and then just advances. The Harbinger advances. She's a great caster built around a devastating feat. Nick occasionally forgets her feat, which is a real problem. You really can't forget her feat. It's the best thing she's got going. She casts Cataclysm on the Machine Wraith, a nice spell that auto-hits, even when he's in melee. Alright, job well done. Good activation. We can wrap this up, right? We're not forgetting anything? Not sure. No, I think we're good. We're good. Yeah, let's go ahead and activate the choir now.
Choir is going to start doing their stuff. Wait.
So you're done with your caster?
She is done, yes.
You sure?
Oh, feet.
Thank you.
Shit.
Third time.
Yeah, shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, so she uses her feat. Enemy moans that end their movement closer to her than when they started will suffer a PAL 14 damage roll. And then the choir activate. When they're done moving, they'll put passage on all the jacks again. The Hierophant advances up and heals the Harbinger for some of the damage she took while she was martyring people. The Temple Flame Guard activate and get the shield wall order. They're confident in the ability of the feat to protect them from charging Banes, so they're happy to just camp out right here. They end up like this. Vilman advances and uses Impervious Wall. The two other paladins activate and do the same. He's hoping his feat will keep all the undead at bay, or at least tear up the ones that charge forward. That way he can counterattack next turn. pSkarre allocates 3 focus to the Kraken and then keeps the rest for herself. The Bane Thralls activate first and they just shuffle backward a little bit, getting out of everyone's way. pSkarre activates. She advances to a slightly more central position to get as many of these guys in her control area as possible. Then she uses her feat. She'll take 5 damage and give everyone in her control area +5 strength and +5 armor. She then casts Dark Guidance. All friendly melee attacks made in her control area get to roll an extra die. The Bane Knights go next and charge right into the Harbinger's feet. They'll take a PAL 14 damage roll when their movement ends. With Skarre's feet up, this will be at dice -7, so this one survives. The second one charges the Crusader. He'll suffer dice -7, but he survives as well. The next one can't draw line of sight through the forest, so he just runs. He suffers a damage roll, but survives. A third knight charges the Crusader, but this one's killed by the feat. Another one runs, but he is destroyed. Another runner, and this one survives. Another knight runs toward her. He's destroyed by the feat, and the remaining knights are sure to run away from her. They don't suffer the feat damage, even if they end up in her control area, as long as they end up farther away from her than when they started, and these 3 do just that. The Banes who made successful charges are then able to make melee attacks. These attacks roll 3 dice thanks to Dark Guidance. The first one needs a 4, and hits. Under the feat, he's only rolling dice -3, and does 11 damage after the Weapon Master die is thrown in there. The knight attacking over the wall gets a -2 penalty and thus needs a 6 to hit. He hits. And at dice -3, he'll do 7 damage. The Kraken activates and spends a focus to charge. He has 4-inch reach during his activation, so he can get there easily and charges a Crusader. He'll suffer a POW 14 damage roll from the feat, but with plus 5 armor takes no damage. The Kraken needs a 6 to hit over the wall, and hits easily. With the feat, it'll be rolling dice plus 4 against the Crusader. Yeah, and does 22 damage in one hit. Yikes. Its second attack hits, and at dice plus 4, only does 13 damage this time. Though, of course, that's plenty to wreck it. He still has 2 focus to buy additional attacks. Targeting Crusaders, the first one hits, and at dice plus 4, does 14 damage. This targeted the Crusader who had already been hit by the Bane Knights, and this wrecks him as well. Its last attack on the third Crusader hits, and does 9 damage. The Mechanothralls are in range of the Avatar's gaze, so they have to move toward the Avatar. He also needs to clear these charge lanes for the Brute Thralls in the back, so he just charges them right into the feet. They'll be at dice minus 3 with their armor buff, so this one dies. Another charges in. He dies. A third dies to the feet as well. A fourth charges and survives. Another charge. A dead Mechanothrall. Yet another charge. And another death. We check the range on the gaze to see if these 2 in front of the Brute Thralls have to move toward the Avatar too. And they are in it, so they must, so they charge. This one dies. The next one dies, barely. And another charges in. And this one survives. That's 2 surviving Mechanothralls on the Avatar. And now the Brutes charge in. And at dice minus 6, he's fine. The second Brute charges in. He'll take a dice minus 6 roll as well, but he's got 8 boxes and only suffers 1 damage. The last Thrall can run away and not take damage. The first Mechanothrall charge attack needs a 5, but with Dark Guidance it hits. Under the feet, this little guy will only be rolling dice minus 1 for damage. And do 4 damage. The next Mechanothrall makes his charge attack and hits. And at dice minus 1 does 15. Oof. The Brute Thralls each make 2 swings, no need to combo strike. And the first one hits. Each fist hits at dice minus 2. This first one does 7. His second fist hits, and at dice minus 2 is only able to do 3 damage. The second Brute's charge attack hits, and is able to do 7 damage, which is enough to wreck the Avatar. Whew. Then Tartarus activates. He charges the Crusader. We had to use a proxy to get the exact measurement here, and he was just out. He'll take a POW 14, but under the feet. He's armored 22 and will take no damage. A brave Necrotech advances up and takes feet damage. But at dice minus 4, he doesn't even get hurt. Scarlock sacrifices a Stitch Thrall, and Scar will get 4 focus from that next turn. And that ends Josh's devastating turn. Man, that Harbinger feat is usually a showstopper. It tends to push pause on the game and cause the opponent to lose a whole turn, but he blew right through it and caused an incredible amount of damage, only losing a bunch of Mechanothralls and some Bane Knights. So a good trade-off for him. Nick starts the turn by allocating 1 focus to the Crusader in the top zone, and then he takes 3 and puts it on the Crusader standing right in front of the Colossal. Nick is in a bad spot here for sure, but most of Josh's army is placed outside of the 2 zones. If Nick could clear both zones and dominate one of them, he could quickly score 3 control points in 1 turn. That could put the pressure back on Josh, and it's as good a plan as any, so that's what Nick tries to do. The Choir activate first, and this first one just walks into a Bane's melee range in the hopes of being a nuisance. The rest of them walk toward Jax and start singing Battle. Harbinger camps all her focus and just runs. She's hoping to dominate this zone that only has 2 Banes in it. At first I wonder why he's bothering to measure the forest. Surely the Harbinger can fly, right? She has wings all over her, but no. If you just tack a bunch of wings onto your model, you don't get new special abilities. She can't fly. The Crusader he loaded up with focus waddles toward the Colossal and takes his first swing. With battle up, he only needs not Snake Eyes to hit. And those are Snake Eyes. Ooh, that sucks. His fist attack hits. He gets +2 from battle, but the Kraken still has +5 armor from the feat, so we're looking at dice -8. But hey, does 4 damage. Best you can do. He buys an additional attack with the mace, and this time it hits. It's POW 20 now and roll dice -4 for 2 damage. Another mace attack hits. And does another 2 damage. This isn't how you bring down Colossals. It buys its last attack and it hits. And at dice -4, only does 1 damage. The Devout activates and advances toward Tartarus. He takes a swing and eating a 5. It hits. At dice -7, it'll do 3 damage. He swings on him with his shield now. That attack hits. But this will be at dice -10. So it does no damage. One of the paladins advances up to whack a Mechanothrall. He'll need a 4 to hit, and he does. And does 1,000,000 damage and annihilates him. And now Vilman can charge one of the Brute Thralls. He'll need a 3 to hit. He hits. And at dice -4, he'll do exactly 8 damage, just enough to destroy the Brute Thrall. The last paladin charges the second Brute Thrall. He'll need a 4. He hits. He'll roll dice -5 and do 9 damage. That'll kill it. The Crusader then activates and takes a swing on the Mechanothrall nearby. He hits it and auto kills it. Nick now wishes he had put more focus on that Crusader, so he could have trampled over that Mechanothrall and then bought attacks against Tartarus, but oh well. That top zone is hopeless, but if these charging Temple Guard can kill those 2 Bane Knights, then he'll score 2 points here. They end up like this. 2 of them combine their attacks on a Bane Knight, only needing a 4 to hit. But Snake Eyes. That's terrible. But there's another pair there, they can kill him. They hit. And at dice -4 damage, they kill it. One last pair makes a combined attack against the Bane Knight. If they kill it, he can win the zone. But they miss as well. Ugh, that is devastating. Yikes, I mean, at the beginning of this turn, Nick wasn't looking so good, but he had a chance to turn the tide a little bit with some quick control points. Maybe force Josh to commit his Colossal to the lower zone, but instead there are no control points. Josh is in complete and utter control. Nick finishes off by running the Hierophant down to the forest. That's a turn. Josh allocates 3 to his Colossal before he remembers his Vengeance moves. Those occur in the maintenance phase, so you're supposed to do them first. We handle them now. Still a lot of Knights alive. These are going to get ugly. Nick had a mini feat that could have buffed his armor, but he forgot to use it. He also may have been better off charging some of those Bane Thralls up near the Colossal, because they can just walk down and get some free attacks right now. The way his dice are rolling, he had no guarantee of doing it, and they were probably in the feat anyway. But as it is, they'll need 7s to hit, and will auto-kill any guard they hit. This one is dead. The next Knight hits as well. And another. And another. This hit was on an officer who has boxes, so we rolled damage. It does enough to kill it, but Nick uses Martyrdom. Another Knight kills, and another Knight kills. That was a lot of 7s. The Necrotag activates and rolls a skill check to repair. He passes the check. and repairs 4 boxes. Scar activates and advances a little bit. She wants to try to get all those Bane Knights in her control area. Then she casts Dark Guidance, so everyone rolls an extra die when they make attack rolls. The last remaining Mechanothrall activates, and he charges Vilman. He'll need an 8 to hit, but that's no problem with the Dark Guidance die. He hits. He'll combo strike, rolling dice -1, and do 9 damage, plenty enough to kill Vilman. And then Tartarus, who really should have died last turn, curses the Devout, and then charges the Paladin with his devastating Thresher attack. He attacks the Paladin first, needing a 6 to hit. And he does. With Dark Shroud, he's only rolling dice -2, and does 9, which destroys the Paladin. The Thresher attack needs a 6 on the other Paladin as well. That hits. He'll roll dice -2. The Paladin only has 5 boxes, so 8 damage is plenty. He rolls to hit on the Choir member. He hits, automatically obliterating it. And then on the Crusader. This attack hits as well. He'll roll dice -5 and do 3 damage. Because Tartarus cursed the Devout, now when these Bane Thralls activate, they get +2 to their movement when they charge him. The Devout can make a defensive strike when a model ends its movement in his melee range. We don't remember it till all the Bane Thralls get up here, but we make it now. He needs a 6 to hit, and does. He'll roll dice -2 and force a tough roll that fails. Then the Thralls go. With the curse, they only need 4s to hit, and of course they're rolling 3 dice. The first hits. It'll roll dice -5 with Dark Shroud and do 4 damage. The next Thrall's charge attack hits. And at dice -5, this one will do 14 damage. The next one hits as well. And will do plenty damage to destroy the Devout. The Surgeon activates, walks towards Scar, and heals her up a little bit. The other Surgeon and their Stitch Thralls move their way towards Scar. The Scarlock activates, he sacrifices one of them. Scar will get 2 extra focus from that. The Bane Knights activate, they advance on the Temple Guard in order to finish them off. They end up like this. They'll need 7s to hit. The first one does. They do enough damage to auto-destroy these poor Temple Guard. The next Bane hits, as does the next. And the next. This one hits the Officer, requiring a damage roll because he has boxes. It does enough to kill him, but Nick uses Martyrdom to keep that one officer alive. And the last Knight kills the Standard, leaving them looking like this. The Kraken activates and uses his 4-inch reach to gobble a Choir member. The attack hits, and when he eats a living model, he gets +1 strength. He then makes his second attack on the Crusader right in front of him. This attack hits, and thanks to that +1 strength buff, will roll straight damage. And do 7 damage. He buys an attack that hits even before the 3rd die drops in there. And at straight dice damage, will do 12 damage. Man, this Kraken is literally killing it today. This next attack does 7 damage. He buys an attack that hits. And this one only does 2 damage, but that's enough to wreck the Crusader. Since he destroyed an enemy model, the Kraken can now make his kill shot. He decides to target the Choir with his 4-inch AoE. He'll need a 7 to hit, and just does. The Choir member directly hit is obliterated, and the other will take a blast damage roll of dice -5, and he dies. And they pass their command check. Hey, he's got that going for him. But that was another gruesome Cryx turn. Nick's just about out of models. He's going to have to try some sort of Hail Mary assassination now. The Harbinger herself is the only model Nick has left that could conceivably damage Scar, so she keeps all of her focus. She has enough to cast her attack spell, Cataclysm, twice, as well as boost each damage roll. The spell automatically hits, which is nice, but its range is only 8 inches. She certainly can't get close enough just advancing. She'd have to charge one of these Banes to get within 8 inches. She'd also have to go through the forest, which will cut her movement. She measures her 20-inch control area to see if it's at all possible. Even if this Bane directly in front of her were removed by one of the Temple Flame Guard, could she charge one of the other ones out of the forest and come up within 8 inches of Skarre in any possible way? And we find out she cannot. Skarre's out of range no matter what she does. So with the assassination off the table, she just looks to destroy some models before she passes the turn. She charges a Bane Knight. Her melee attacks automatically hit as well. She's able to kill that one, and then spend a couple focus killing other nearby Banes. This leaves her with 8 focus. Josh's Vengeance moves clear out one of the Temple Guard. Then Skarre allocates 3 to her Colossal. She activates and casts Dark Guidance. And then the Bane Knights activate and charge the Harbinger. They will need 8s to hit. The first one hits, but we'll be rolling dice minus 11 thanks to all the focus she's camping, and do no damage. The second one hits as well, but at dice minus 11 does exactly 0 damage. Then the Colossal advances to finish this off. It'll need 8s to hit as well. Its first attack hits. He boosts the damage and will roll dice minus 3 for damage, and do 5 damage. Second attack will hit as well. He'll boost this damage, roll 2, but only do 3 damage. It buys one last attack that hits. He can't boost it this time, but he does enough damage to kill her. This game really swung on the round when both players used their feats. Sometimes it can be tricky to get the most out of Skarre's feat. If you're on the back foot and it looks like the opponent's going to get the alpha charge on you, it can sometimes be necessary to use her feat purely defensively just for the plus 5 armor, and then you'll lose out on the plus 5 strength, which can be a shame. Unfortunately for Nick, this Harbinger list of his here is quite slow. He relies on his feat to get the alpha charge, and that usually works. The Harbinger's feat is so devastating, particularly against infantry-heavy armies, that Nick's opponents are forced to all but skip a turn before the Harbinger casts Crusader's Call and sends a bunch of clanking Crusaders into their line. This was a perfect scenario for Skarre to get the most out of her feat. The plus 5 armor bonus was just enough to get some of her infantry in on the jacks, so while she lost most of her Mechanothralls, enough made it through to wreck an 11-point model. The Bane Knights, similarly, lost about half their number, but the ones that got in chopped up Crusaders nicely. The Colossal was a problem that Nick never really had an answer for. With its long reach, it was always going to get the alpha charge on at least one of the jacks, and as we saw, with plus 5 strength, it could easily wreck multiple jacks. I'm not sure how Nick would have handled it if he had to do it all over again. He certainly wouldn't have lined up his jacks on turn 2 and trusted in his feat. He saw that that wasn't as powerful as he might have hoped. But I didn't really see a good alternative there with such a slow army. There was always going to be one turn where the Cryx could charge in on you. Anytime you play against an infantry-heavy Cryx army, you just have to work under the assumption that their models are better than yours. If you just walk into the middle of the map and trade blows, you're going to lose. Typically, you need to start thinking about assassination before deployment. Unfortunately for Nick, Skarre can be a tough caster to assassinate. Her base armor is a little higher than you might expect at 15, and she's often camping a bunch of focus. Lastly, there'll be a feat turn while she'll be at plus 5 armor. There often isn't an opportunity early in the game where you can get a realistic shot at her. And late in the game, her infantry swarm has already turned the tide. She can be a tough one. Thank you for watching. For more battle reports, articles, and guides, check out Gearwig.com. You can email me at boss@gearwig.com, or check out our Facebook or Twitter pages. If you want to help the site, tell a friend, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.